Casting for Recovery is a retreat and fly fishing school for breast cancer survivors. The casting motion mimics lots of therapy motions for lymphedema and soft tissue recovery. So it's wonderful that the women get to kind of recharge their batteries.
I fish like an mad woman sometimes. You can't get me to stop. And one could say your addictive personality is kicked in with fishing. And I look at that and go, is my life unmanageable? Is it causing me problems? I don't think so.
It's very hard to tie a fly today, a featherwing streamer, and not be able to find a little bit of Carrie Stevens' methods in it. And she raised that whole craft arguably to an art form.
Welcome to the Flyline Podcast, where we enjoy the interesting stories behind the legendary guides and luminaries connected to Maine fishing. I'm Michael Jones. Today, I'm joined by two influential families whose stories are deeply woven into Maine's guiding and outdoor education community, the Wares and the Rogers. The Wares and the Rogers represent two distinct but closely connected paths within Maine's guiding world. Carroll and Lila Ware are known for their commitment to tradition, high standards, and teaching the foundational skills that have helped to shape generations of guides through their legendary Maine Guide Preparation School. Their work reflects a deep respect for time-tested methods, mentorship, and preparing future guides the right way. John and Tami Rogers bring a complementary perspective that strengthens guide education and outdoor learning through proven hands-on teaching and personal mentoring using proven techniques. Together, their story is one of collaboration, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to the future of Maine's outdoor guiding traditions. In this episode, we talk about how guiding and becoming a guide has changed over time, and why preserving knowledge, skills, and values matters more than ever. It's a conversation about legacy, adaptation, and the responsibility that comes with shaping the next generation of future Maine guides. This episode holds a big reveal, in that it serves as an announcement of the Ware's retirement and the merging of the two guide schools into one, operated by the Rogers on the road ahead. Carroll and Lila Ware and John and Tami Rogers, welcome to the Flyline Podcast.
This is going to be great.
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited too, because this is the largest group of people I've ever done a recording with for the podcast.
Good luck.
Thank you, Lila. I mean it. Now, just for the audience, if you haven't listened to all the episodes of the podcast, and we have some ferocious listeners that have, Carroll and Lila were actually two of the first people that we ever had on the podcast. This was years ago.
Oh, God, it
was,
wasn't it?
I called you from Chicago, Illinois on a business trip. And I said, I want to get these people that have been doing a Maine Guide School on the podcast because, well, you'd also won the Wiggy Robinson Award. You both tell a great story. I've seen you guys present at the Maine Sportsman Show. And I thought, and you're in Skowhegan, right? So not too far away, but it's just COVID was going on, so I couldn't interview you.
Right.
Now, we're going to bookend that with John Rogers, who was just in last season. So we got you from first season, Carroll. And last season ended with John Rogers, one of my favorite podcasts I ever did. I just love the way that you handled the questions that we talked about, John, and it meant everything. But you called me this summer, and don't spill the beans why you called me this summer, but you said we should get together. You tell the story, but don't spill the beans as to why we're getting together.
Okay, no, I said that we need to get together before the first of the year.
Yeah.
And you need, I suggested to you, obviously, it would be a really good idea, for the four of us to be interviewed by you in a podcast.
Yeah.
And, obviously, I assume that some of the people listening right now know who we are.
Yeah.
So that sort of gives a hint on where we may be going with this. But
yeah.
I won't spill the beans.
No, we won't spill the beans. But we're going to reveal the secret in the second half. But I think for the first half, I'd like to just talk to you all, really, about what it is like to run a Maine Guide School. But more importantly, where the hell did you get the idea? What was the genesis? Were you sitting around poor one day and said, I'm just not going to make the mortgage payment?
I wish.
No, we're still sitting around poor.
No, but yeah, Carroll and Lila, what was just because you guys have been doing this a little longer than Tami and John?
Carroll was asked to do a program for the adult ed in Skowhegan. And
did that for two winters.
And said, $3.15 an hour. But we could do better with more resources and reach more people in a different venue.
So in the
And we
spring
said we just
semester of
do this on
90,
our own.
we took off on our own, just like we knew from nothing.
When did you say that was?
Spring of 1990.
I love it. Keep going.
And right place, the right time, all of a sudden, people began to call from Portland and Augusta and down East Maine and Allagash and Orono. And pretty quick, we spread ourselves all over the state. And we thought, holy smokes, we're onto something here.
Well, our structure then, when we very first started our classes on our own, we did a class one night a week for 12 or 15 weeks, depending. And it was like every Tuesday night here in town. So it was pretty restrictive to people who could travel to get here once a week for 12 weeks. And that's how we started. We would also have a nighttime exercise, which was fun. We'd take everybody up and try to lose them in the woods, and Carroll would hide with a cigar, and they'd have to come after a gunshot and find him at night. It was very fun,
Yep.
And it got a very different audience. And then that was hard on us, actually, to be committed to 12 weeks, but maybe there was a baby coming in the family or a grandchild or something.
Yeah.
And so we went from the 12-week structure to the 4-day structure, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday,
Right.
which we did for a number of years. And then the department changed their testing process, which enabled us to reduce the time commitment it took to cover the materials.
What changed, Lila?
They changed the testing process in relation to no longer using the USGS topographical maps.
Right.
And because when we used the topographical maps, we probably spent a total of 8 hours over 4 days with every student.
Right.
And with that gone and no longer needing to know the things you needed to know, it just meant we could reduce our schedule by a half a day.
And you gave a great explanation when we did our first podcast years ago with you about how it changed, so we won't go into depth about that. That was great.
Okay.
But they're now using the DeLorme map, is what long and short of it.
They're using the Maine Gazetteer.
The Maine Gazetteer, which I refer to as the Bible. Or the DeLorme.
Yeah.
Right.
You and
It's
everybody
now
else.
owned by Garmin, though.
Now, was there anybody that was teaching a Maine Guide class formally before you guys started doing it?
Before we
you
started? Well, we both took courses at the Adult Ed in Skowhegan.
So that was the only one around. There was a game warden, come to think of it, in Oakland that was teaching this basically the same thing that we were. But then we decided to take our show on the road because there were better opportunities and more opportunities for money.
Right. So in the wintertime, if you're a Maine Guide, I mean, you guys do them year round, both John and Tammy, you and Lila, right? You do them year round. Am I right?
We don't do them during hunting season,
Yeah.
which is in October and November.
Okay.
And if we want to reserve our prime fishing season, we don't do classes when we want to go fishing.
Right.
But we can also, we know enough ahead of time when we're going to schedule these classes and when we're going to schedule a trip to who knows where.
Right.
So you can just make it work.
Yeah. John, talk to me a little bit about the genesis of your guide school.
Well, I took a class that was done one night a week for the rest of your life, I used to call them. One night a week. But the instructor was via a computer or TV. And I started it in Bath, and I sat there, and I don't know his name, nor would I say it, but I said, really? I mean, he talked for an hour and a half about himself, and then I said, I want more. So anyway, I left the class. And Tam and I talked, and I said, I know there's one in Skowhegan, There's this guy in Skowhegan that's doing one, and he's doing like one night a week for 12 weeks. Well, I wonder if we could put one together for a week. And we talked about it and put it in the back burner. At that same time, we had bought a set of sporting camps. And of course, anybody that's listening that owns sporting camps know that you can become a millionaire at it. If you start with $4 million and you're frugal, in the end, you might have $1 million. Anyway, we would beg, borrow, and steal and put it on credit cards to open it up, pay that debt back. And then come September, they're all even again, but you've only got like 2 months to stock money. So it was like, if we had something to go with. So in the first couple winters, and 22 quart of firewood each winter, I took a job because I did electrical work on the side. I took a job with a friend, which took me all the way to Connecticut, leaving Tammy in the middle of the woods with a Ford pickup and 2 miles in the woods and 2 small kids. And she calls me up and she said, I think it's time. I think we need to do this. So we talked about it. This is what we need to cover. We'll do it in a week. We'll food, lodging. And she put an ad in the Maine Sportsman or whichever one it was. And she called me and says, I don't know how busy you are, but you need to get home.
Absolutely.
I said, what are you talking
Response
about?
was
She
immediate.
said, we just passed 20 people. So
Yeah, so we had first worked with the state. We would go back and forth to find out what is the requirements to become a Maine guide. We would sit with Connie Latno, and she would talk with us, and some of
Connie Latno.
Right.
We all know that name. Yeah.
Right? Some of the other, game wardens and et cetera. And we said, let's do this. And it was a hands-on for a whole week that you would come and stay at the lodge, would feed you, lodge you, train you, and send you on your way.
A real
And
immersion class.
Right.
a real immersion class.
Perfect.
Which is a
And-
little different than what you guys were at least initially
Yep.
doing. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's
Forever.
where we first started. And we like to say we're the pioneers of the
Absolutely.
first hands-on week-long guide school. And that was 1997.
Now,
Jeez. Yeah,
just to
imagine.
remind myself, what was the guide school called, Carroll?
Fins and Furs Adventures Maine Guides Training Program.
John?
we started out at Eagle Lodging Camps, and we just added like registered Maine Guide School when we advertised it. And when we sold the camp, 2003, we kept that portion of the business because it looked like it would be a good fix for as you got grayer hair.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we shifted it and called it Maine's Outdoor Learning Center.
And that's what it's called today.
Yes,
Yes.
because we have done a lot of other things, which we have pushed a lot of it towards our son, one of our sons, but we would do river rescue day trips and
Map and compass,
forage and
day
map and
trips,
compass and do all
foraging.
these other things
Mhm.
because we have a camp on the Mattawamkeag, and Tammy said, why don't we add another cabin? We bought it for ourselves. It was a beautiful spot. And she said, we put in a cabin for the kids. So the kids will come. We're still waiting. The kids didn't come. So she said, well, if we had another cabin, we could do a class here. After we drill a well and put a shower house in, but another cabin would even be better. And if we had a place to teach them, that school building, that would be really good. And another cabin for an instructor to come. Anyway, we have another set of cabins now. But anyway, we
don't rent them out.
We don't rent
Just
them
for
out.
training.
We only do them for when we do something, and we don't do it a lot of them.
Right.
We do it to pay our way, so to speak. But we sort of still holding on to just holding on to that where we started from,
Right.
because it was so much fun to take the map and compass from the table to the field,
Mhm.
the canoe paddle
Yeah.
in the chair to the canoe,
Absolutely.
the fly rod. You
To
could
the
talk
river.
about it in class, but it's
Yeah.
different when you get on the river. And we got a river, so anyway.
Yeah. No, that's great. Not everyone has heard the John Rogers podcast, but as I said before, I loved it because I just loved what you said. Did you hear it, Tammy? Did he
Yes,
let
I
you hear
did.
it? Yeah, or did he insist on you hearing it? I should
No,
say?
I wanted to
Yeah,
listen
and it
to
was
I've
fun.
listened to Carol's. I've listened to
Yeah.
Aldros. I've listened to Randy Spencer's. I love your podcast.
Thank you.
You do a great
Yeah,
job.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Tammy. That makes me feel good. And it makes, I know it makes Sherry feel good too, because she's a big part of this. She's kind of my silent partner, just like you guys have been partners
Yep.
through all of your
Yeah.
quests together.
Oh,
But,
my goodness.
I was going to say, though, that during the John Rogers podcast, he talked about the money fish.
Mhm.
And the money fish is basically an analogy for if you're going to be out guiding, you need to have something you can count on. And in his case, being Captain John Rogers down in Florida, it was the barracuda. It was a fish he could count on being able to catch. Now, I say that to say, what was the location money fish for the Maine Guide School for Carroll and Lila? Was there one place that just seemed to be?
There was one that was the most convenient that was always a good turnout. And that's right here in our hometown of Skowhegan. We're very centrally located, but we also consistently produce classes in Brewer and Gorham.
Interesting.
We've tried many other locations and have fun at all of them.
The first class that we ever did in the Portland area we did it in a dance studio in downtown South Portland.
Surrounded by mirrors.
So,
It was bad.
Exotic dance studio? Or?
well, something
Carol
along those
tried.
lines.
Carol tried.
Yeah. But we've done them, and we did one at somebody's house.
We've done them in a garage in Portage.
Garage, anywhere.
We've done them in, mostly we tried to find a local rod and gun club or shooting club or something like that, so that it added to the, effect you were trying to get
And,
of
it
being a
gives us a
guide.
chance to pay rental for some of these facilities so that everybody else benefits as well.
So I'm picturing you're getting calls maybe from Bangor and you say, maybe we should just go up and do a class in Bangor. Or was it more like you pitch it in Bangor and then they come? Like we'll build it and they'll come.
We
How does it
pitched
work?
it and they came.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing for you guys?
We've had both.
Both, because what you get, and I'm Carol, I will do the same thing. I know they do, is that we get calls from lodges a lot of times.
Yeah.
And they've got, 3 or 4 people that are interested. They got a couple clients that are interested. And so we sort of blend that together.
Mhm.
The lodges often had people that they wanted to come and guide for them, work for them,
Yeah.
and they needed
So
a license
it
to
made
do
sense
that.
for them to have us on site.
So like a Weatherby's or a Libby's or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
And you go up and you get them all tuned up and they go take the guides test.
Yep, and maybe some locals come in and it supplements it so that we have, 6 or 8 people.
Right.
We do the smaller lodges as well. There's the Northwoods up in Patton and Bulldog Camps
Mm-hmm.
over in Jackman, to have that. But one of the forerunners that we would be called all the time was AMC.
No kidding.
Called us continuously to come in and train their employees, which
Where?
was really fun.
Where would they do that, Tammy?
Gorman Chairback.
Yeah.
Done one there. Meadow Whistler.
Yep.
Done one there. Couple times at Gorman Chairback. And so we do that as well. We have our classes in place for, now it's the 3-day. And so those are our staples, at Howells and Gray, Maine, and Cabela's.
Right.
We do it there. And then we open it up to other places for people that want to do private operation, reboot, to get veterans involved. And so we just kind of set hours what we need to do. So it's the same, just like you two do.
We did the same.
We
Give
have
us a
your
reason to
set
come.
classes, right? And then others pop up. We do a lot for Wounded Warriors in Action, and they've flown us everywhere to do Purple Heart recipients, which is really well, we've been to
What an honor.
Dakotas, we've been
What an
other
honor.
places, right?
So maybe it goes
Yeah.
beyond the boundaries of Maine because you're really just teaching kind of skills.
That
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, the Wounded Warriors in Action is not the Wounded Warriors that everybody might think they see. It's all Purple Heart recipients, started by this gentleman in Florida, John McDonald. And the first one he did was in Danforth, Maine. And what it is that they take Purple Heart recipients on fishing and hunting trips, and they take one of their own and train them as guides. So they're the liaison, because a lot of these people don't like to fly. They don't like to do anything. So they got somebody holding their hand
Yeah.
the whole way.
We're coaching. Yeah.
So what we do is it is more skill. And it was a 10-day class, not ours for 10 days. I would be involved for 2 or 3 days, and Tammy would be involved for at least a day. Wellness, breathing, making them cry, all good stuff.
Right.
Helping them get through, helping them when they
Heal.
have a wounded warrior come through, that the guide knows how to support them when they're getting through the airport, the transition from comforts of their own home. So the wellness portion was incredibly important to these people to have as bringing in wounded veterans.
I just want to add this in. I was involved with Project Healing Waters years ago on a volunteer level as a guide, but also as a coordinator for the area. And I got a desperate call one day from one of the top guys at Project Healing Waters that they had a guy in Walter Reed that had tried to commit suicide 2 or 3 times in 1 week. And my job, without the training that you could have offered me, Tammy, was to go get this guy and fly him out to the Smith River in Montana and get him in a drift boat for a week so he couldn't kill himself. And I slept in the same tent with him. This was a guy who was the quarterback of his high school football team. He had the most beautiful girlfriend in the cheerleader squad, and he went off to Afghanistan and had both of his legs blown off and half his face. And so I didn't have the skill set that Tami, that you were just talking about. And I'll tell you, it was a challenge because I didn't know what to say to him.
Yeah.
And all I knew was just my presence and being a Maine guide.
And listening.
And listening was probably going to be enough, and it was.
That's perfect.
And when we came back and he got off the airplane from Montana, he caught every fish in the damn river because he was taught how to fly cast correctly and he knew how to run a streamer.
Yep.
But, and he'll go unnamed, but I think of him to this day. He's still alive. He's still with us, which is a great story. It tells you about these programs like Project Healing Waters and Wounded Warriors. And then what's the one? Yeah, Lila.
Well, I was just going to say, you touched people with that. All four of us have touched people for all of these years and improved their lives. We believe have improved their lives. And that's so rewarding. So good for you for having
I had a chance to do
a
couple of floats with Project Healing Waters. And there was a guy there that he had everybody in tears before he was done, but he walked away smiling.
Yeah. You know, I still got a few of the people that they hire me. They insist on it. I mean, if I take them for free, they wouldn't come. They hire me now to this day, which is great. So that tells you they know they're getting something out of it too. So that makes me feel good. We talked about the money fish, which was the location. Did I hear a money fish location for your school? I think Cabela's has done well by you recently, or is it?
But Howells and Gray.
Howells and Gray. Okay.
Howells and Gray has done. I've been friends with the Howell cop since. He's younger than I am. Since he was a kid, I tell him. But anyway, he's only 68. So anyway, but Cabela's was interesting. They called us a long time ago. It's been 15 years. And they said, listen, we would like to talk to you about running a guides program here because we're from Nebraska. And we need something that says Maine.
yeah.
That's not a bad idea. So we went down and they treated us really well, and we always offered up a chair, a free seat for any of their people because I thought it would be best. If I was running Cabela's, everybody had a guides patch, it would be awesome. But anyway,
right.
And it worked out to the point where it was branded. People were calling Cabela's to say, I can get my guide's license there. Well, you've really done it then. Well,
absolutely.
And it was good for everybody. We'd bring in 15, 20 people. You're not going to go in a sporting goods store without going on with something.
Sure.
So
it was good for them and good for you.
And then when they sold, it was the management. They've got it ironed out now, but there was a few years that we just couldn't. We like to book ahead a year, and we couldn't. So we got a hold of Adam and Howell, and it's a wonderful location, and it's good for them. Again, it's good for them. Yeah. So those are our two real major places, and we run a small 4-5-person thing almost every month in Camden, so I can come home and sleep in my own bed.
John, where do you do this in Camden?
On John Street, at John Street Church. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, it's just a wonderful. They're great people. I have to tell this quick, really story. I went in because it's hard to find a place. It really is.
Yeah,
it's very hard. Yeah. So I went in, and we only wanted a small room, which was going to be helpful. So I went in, and I finally talked to them, and they said, "Oh yes. We'll show them you." They showed me the room. I said, "It's perfect. It's perfect." I said, "We'll give you a key." So I said, "So how much do you want?" And they said, "Well, it's donation." I said, "Well, what, $10 work?" And dead serious, the woman says, "That would be fine, honey." And I said, "Of course we don't. We pay a lot more than that."
Yeah.
But it was like, you have to sign up for the room, and we have the room whenever we want it. So it really works well for us.
And what we're finding is that some people like the small 4 to 5 person class. It's private, it's intimate, and some people say, I want the Camden class versus the larger classes at Howell's or Cabela's. And we're like, okay, great. Well, this is when we have it.
Some people are uncomfortable with letting anybody else know that they don't know a hell of a lot about the subject at hand.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've had a number of private classes. I mean, one person.
Right.
And sometimes they bring a brother. A number of them over the year for exactly what Carol said.
Well, we're going to have a private class when this podcast is over because I'm going to try to get my New Hampshire guides license for fishing. And I want you guys to remind me the map and compass part of it because it can't be different just because we're in New Hampshire. It's
Yes, it is.
Oh,
We
come
just-
on.
It's very
Last-
different.
Okay,
in
so
New
you
Hampshire.
so you're my instructor, Lila.
No, I'm not an instructor, but we've had 2 candidates recently
last week.
survive the New Hampshire process. It is much more difficult than Maine's.
Mm-hmm.
Much more difficult.
With respect to the map and compass.
all of it.
Or all of it.
All of
Yeah.
it. I will
They-
put you in touch with some people.
Okay.
Yeah, we and the gal that we had last weekend
Yes.
has a guide
Just
license,
passed.
and she just passed, and they're back to the old 8-step process, orient them after magnetic north.
And the one other thing I'll throw in there, because I had somebody too, is that they were a little heavier on first aid than
I've heard that.
he ever
Mhm.
thought. Very heavy. Where Maine, not so much. Hypothermia, bug bites, and whatever. But he said it was very heavy on. He didn't say anything about maps, nor did I ask. But they changed. It used to be a few years back.
It was
10.
not much.
It was easier. And then I think they made a choice whether they're going to bump it up, and they
Which
did.
is
They
good.
bumped it up. So
2010, IF&W changed from the lost person scenario to the catastrophic event.
Here.
In Maine.
in Maine,
What is a catastrophic event? I know it's not always the same, but just give me an example. What you've heard about.
The lost person days, you got somebody lost, and they might have when you find them, they've twisted a knee, but there were never life-threatening circumstances. And the catastrophic event now is life-threatening circumstances, and it might be hypoglycemia, might be an attack of
You could have a stroke. You could have a
Stroke, yeah.
gunshot. You could have
and it's got
broken compound
one
fractures.
of our people just very recently went into the tree stand, hypothetical story, of course, went into his tree stand to pick up the customer, and the guy's upside down in the tree stand. He'd fallen out of the tree stand. He's
Hanging the
snapped
ladder.
his leg as a compound fracture, and he's hanging upside down.
That could happen.
That
Sure
can
could.
happen.
Yeah.
That's why they
But
test you
the
that way.
difference, the big difference is, first, there are apt to be life-threatening circumstances, and with the lost person days, if you used any member of the party to help you, assist you in any way, you were dead. You were not getting a license, and now you're expected to use every resource that you have at your disposal.
Yeah, I would have argued with anybody about that. You should always use the people around.
Oh, of course.
And it also adheres to which license you're going for. That's the catastrophic event. That you
Right,
get. If
the
it's
type of
hunting, it'd be a
injury.
tree stand or whatever that is, the type of injury.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it sure has changed from the days when you went to see the game warden and paid him $15 or whatever the license was, and he slapped you on the back, said you're a guide.
That's how it
Yeah.
used to go.
Well, Bob Howe told a story about that's how he got his license. And the warden showed up and he said, he took a hose and wet down a bunch of wood and said, build me a fire. And then he said, take me down the river in the canoe and don't get me wet. And Bob successfully completed both. And the warden said, here's your license.
Yeah, my father was a master Maine guide. I'm a second generation master Maine guide. And George Edwards, who was a warden in our town, you probably recognize that name, Carol. George
Okay.
Edwards. Well, Dean, you always get your deer every year. You get a license. He wrote about a guy's license. Then he went on to become a recreational guide, which he
Yeah.
got the testing for, a whitewater rafting guide,
Yeah.
a fishing guide. He had a bunch of different licenses. But his very first one was given to him by the warden. So that's talking a little bit of history about the way that it used to be
Sure.
done.
Yeah.
And then, so do we know what the history of actually formally licensing guides was? Do we know of this?
The
Nancy?
best I was ever able to find out while I was on the board that it was somewhere in the last 5 years of the 70s. And that's as close as I was ever able to come to find
That
out.
sounds about right, because I was born in 69 and my
Yeah.
father, go ahead.
Yeah.
and Gil Gilpatrick was a close friend. Said, and Gil was, I don't know how old Gil is, 85 or better anyway. He said that when he got out of the service, got back to, he lived right here.
Yeah, he did. He's Skowhegan boy.
He wanted to become a guide. And we got a hold of the state, and I don't know if it was 1 year or not. I've never found out anything more. But they sent him a test in the mail with 10 questions
Jesus.
in the mail. And he said one of the questions says, can you can you handle a canoe in whitewater?
No.
Yes or no?
Yeah. And of course, for him, Gilpatrick.
Yeah, exactly.
So
but I
like
mean, he said, well, you're going to get 100 on it. You send it in. And he said a warden did come to his house. And, of course, back then, you got to remember that, Carroll Ware's farm, father's farm, that's where you hunted. That's where you recreated. So everybody knew everybody.
Sure.
And I think that was the case there. They asked him something about fish chowder, and that was the end of it. He said, you're good to go.
Right.
Fish chowder.
But there was another warden in the Lincoln area, priest, an old warden.
Mm-hmm.
And he said at the very beginning of his warden's career, he tested people. It was in the 60s or something.
Yeah.
And they would actually take him up a road and make you go in the woods with a compass. So I think it's like every year it must have changed for
a long time. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you that I took my guide's test to become a whitewater rafting guide there was only wardens in the room. And I can tell you that neither of these guys had ever put their foot inside of a whitewater raft. But they'll go unnamed, but they were Millinocket guys. And this was when all the big A dam thing was going on.
Oh, yeah.
And if it had been a test, I would have passed it. Okay, so I got my Kennebec, I got my dad. They wouldn't give me my Penobscot and they wouldn't give me my Cribworks license because of political reasons, I felt. And they were hard asses. They were not nice guys. The Warden Service has done a tremendous job of changing their reputation.
They sure have.
I had Judy Camuso on the podcast years ago, and Judy hasn't been with the Warden Service forever, but she's been there long enough to hear that they were not known. I mean, when the warden approached you in the woods, it wasn't always a good thing. And now it is usually, they kind of let you off a little bit at times. They're very into PR now.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
They've become good ambassadors of the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. And I don't think that the game wardens, at least by most Maine people, are held in the same light that they were maybe 35 years ago.
Yeah.
They are supervisors of the resources of the state of Maine.
Right. Tammy, I want to go back because John made a comment about Gilpatrick knowing something about canoeing or not. Do you know Gilpatrick?
I do.
Yeah. Can you, just for the audience, what did Gilpatrick do?
What did he not do?
Yeah.
Well, that's
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Well, he's a phenomenal writer.
Right.
For one, I love reading all that he writes about the outdoors. His books have been a forerunner for guide school students for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But as a personal friend, his stories are amazing, and his delivery of these stories are fantastic. And so his wife Dot and him together, they're like this powerhouse when they're telling stories over a meal or anything on that sort. But he can wield a canoe. And one of the things that he talks about when he does a canoe trip, which I think John states all the time, is make sure you bring what you like. So, one person doesn't go hungry, which I thought was phenomenal in creating your pack list.
I love that. Now, just to fill in a hole that we didn't talk about Gilpatrick, is he really wrote the book on the Cedar Strip canoe building project. Yep. And that book is no longer in print, and it's worth quite a bit of money now.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And I bet you, he did that, and he had a class.
At the high school.
Yeah.
He
High
taught
school,
it at the
that's
high school. And he was forever graduating our high school seniors, knowing how to do the talent of not only the Cedar Strip canoes, but the paddles. They built paddles there as well. And we have a couple of their paddles.
Yeah. We have two of Gil's paddles that he had his kids at the high school built for us. And I wanted one with a little bit different grip. So the grip is shaped like my hand. So I can grab it like this. They put a very small, maybe 1/8" nylon cord around the edge of the blade, laminated all of it, laminated one of our business cards on both sides of the paddle. And to this day, those paddles they don't look like they've ever been in the water.
Right. Gil is also the reason we have a master designation for individual categories of activities. We have a master rec, a master hunting, and a master fishing guide opportunity now, because although Gil was the master at the Allagash and any other canoe trip he wanted to do, he couldn't call himself a master in marketing. So now we have a master opportunity for all those people who have a specialty that they like to do in guiding.
Tami?
I was actually just going to spin off on what Carroll said on his craftsmanship. He had built us a snowshoe clock.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So one little quick story about Gil. Back in the day, people put in for the moose permits, and I never got drawn. And I would find out who won, and I'd get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And if I had a friend that had one, I would call their phone because I knew I'd leave a message, and I'd leave a nasty message. And it became a game. And I sort of gave up after for a few years. And I just stopped doing it. And then my phone rings. And it's Gil. He said, "Hey, I got drawn." I said, "Yep, I know." I'm figuring he's going to give it to me a little bit, you know. It was like the 3rd or 4th time he'd been drawn. He said, "But I got drawn for my camp, which is at the head of Shirley Bog.
Yep.
It's an old trapping cabin.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you can get there is by Argo." And he said, "I want you to go with me."
What's an Argo?
It's one of those
A
6-wheel things that go
Six-wheel
through
trap.
water.
Like a coupe.
Like a
Yeah,
trap.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
trap.
So,
Amphibious boat.
yeah.
Yes.
So I said, "I'm in." So I'm excited, you know. So we get up to the cabin that night, and it's an old little Trappist cabin, and we go in, and Gil cooks dinner, and after we're done dinner, we have a wee dram, and he's got a whole bunch of papers on the side of the table. I'm saying to myself, "Why do you bring stuff with you? You know, this is a moose hunt." And he pushes the paper over, and he says, "Sign the bottom of that and give me my moose permit." That is Gil Gilpatrick.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is,
He knew you wanted to shoot a
So
moose.
I said, "What we'll do is I thanked him, and he brought tears to my eyes, but I said, we'll have to shoot it together because I want to share this with you, obviously." And I said, "When the opportunity arrives, we'll do it on the count of 3. I went 1, bang. So, you know, he's a little older and he's a little slower, so that's how that goes. No, I love you, Gil, if you're listening.
Yeah, that's a great.
Write that out.
I sat on boards for the last 3 years or thereabouts that I was a member of the advisory board. I sat on a lot of boards with Gil. And I just cherished the moments when somebody, in those days, if they failed any portion, the exam was ended right there. And I wouldn't say that I wanted anybody to fail, but boy, I cherished those moments when somebody did fail and they left early, and I could listen to Gil spin them. He told me he never had to do a Z-drag to get a canoe off a rock in the Allegash River
Because
they just never got in that circumstance.
the Z-drag was more of a rafting thing. We had to use it all the time in the Penobscot. You know, place of the falling rocks. I said the place of the descending rocks. Am I getting that right, John? The Penobscot. I think the name for the Penobscot by Abenaki is place of this descending rocks. It's a boulder garden, right? So we were constantly getting rafts stuck on.
Yep.
We were using Z-drags to get them off. So it was important to know how to do it. Did we teach Z-drag in general rep?
Yep.
Yeah, it did.
We always did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Always have. Yeah.
Cool.
With both the Maine Sportsman and the Northwoods Journal, and I'm sure it applies to you folks as well, we can look through there and we can say, hey, this one and these folks started with us, and now they're running their own guide service. They're owning their own set of sporting camps. They're making their way in this industry. And I think for us, any of us, to be a part of that is a tremendous privilege.
Can you think of anyone in particular that went through your school, Lila, that really jumps off the page for you? Do you ever have a celebrity, or did you ever have one person that just really, or maybe you, Carol?
They're all special.
Well, I know. Now, come on.
I know that's.
They're
I know
all special.
that sounds like a cop out, but it's true. And to this day, if I see somebody on Facebook, they post a picture of a deer, they post a picture of a fish. If I recognize the name, I'm still commenting.
Yeah.
You know, really glad.
Good.
There is a young lady who recently completed a course with us, and she's moose hunting only, guiding moose hunts only. And her name isn't coming to me.
That's
I
okay.
apologize to you for that. But just to have watched her journey as a woman in a man's field, typically, although women are really catching up quickly, I'm very proud of her, and I especially comment on her posts when she's successful. She had 2 hunts this year. One was not successful. One was. So
I think one of the things that being raised in a guiding family, right?
yes.
Were either of your fathers guides at all?
Yep.
Yeah, your dad was a guide, Carol.
Yours too?
Yeah,
Yep.
my
Your dad was too.
Grandfather.
Kind
A
of.
little bit.
Yeah. So
Time.
you guys understand that.
Grandfather.
Yeah.
That's a
So
license.
Yep.
I think that, there's something that comes along with having the patch, right? You feel like you've
Yes.
accomplished something. And for the state of Maine, was always known as being the most difficult place in the world to get a
Certainly
guide's
is.
license, right? You agree with that, Carol?
Absolutely. That patch is known all over the country.
Right. It's an icon.
It certainly is. If you want, later on, I have a story about one of the benefits of being able to wear that patch.
Let's not later on. Let's right now.
Okay, so anytime Lila and I have spent 35 years traveling to all over North and South
And my
America.
family is
marketing.
in Georgia.
I can hear a little southern.
Mhm. My family's in.
And so we were going, I think we were flying to Chile with a group of people several years ago. We get on the plane in Portland, we go to Boston and Atlanta. Well, anytime we travel, I always wear one of my shirts that has the Maine Guides patch, and I have the other patch that indicates that I have these 54 world records, fly fishing records. And so we're on the plane and getting ready to go, and the one of the flight attendants comes up and she said, what's that mean? And I said, well, I'm Master Maine Guides. And she said, what's the other? And I told her what it was. She said, oh my God. She said, goes down, gets 2 of the other girls and comes up. She said, look at this. This is 54. I'm like, oh my gosh. She said, here, here's a couple of packages of the Biscoff cookies they gave you. So from
Free
there,
cookies.
swear to God, all the way to Atlanta, we had all the Biscoff cookies we could eat and free drinks.
So there is it. There is
Huge advantage. Little did you know everybody else on the plane was treated the
Yeah,
same.
this is true, but
Made you feel real good, though, didn't it?
boy,
Carol?
it sure did. Especially about the third one of those Crown Royals. I was smiling a lot.
I tell you, she sat right down on the arm of his chair and just, oh my goodness. I'm like, I loved it. I just said, take it.
We were on the Mass Pike going to a sportsman show someplace and stopped to gas up in one of the stations out there. And car next to us, a woman saw our logo on the truck and said, what's that mean? And we told her. She asked for a business card, and a couple of weeks later, her husband called us.
So you never know.
You never know.
No, I've been doing some side gig work in the wintertime, and I'll run into someone who's just wearing a Sims vest or a Orvis hat or something, and I'll just start up a small conversation. Next thing I know, I've got a client.
Yeah.
And it's worked out quite well.
Good.
Yeah. And that's the way it is. But we were talking earlier about, people getting their guide's license and the credibility that goes along with it and all that sort of thing. But I think that there's a lot of people that are almost doing it for social media purposes now. I've noticed a few out there that they don't look like they have dirt under their fingernails.
Nope.
And that's a metaphor, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Lila?
I do.
Have you seen?
There's a young man that came through our class. He's from the coastal area, but his thing, he's still a guide, and his thing is moose watching. He loves to post photos of all the moose he finds for clients to see, because seeing a moose in Maine isn't as easy as it used to be.
No.
And you have to work for them, and he takes them on canoe and kayak trips out. And he's making a living doing that.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
No,
that's actually not what I was talking about either, Lila, because he's actually taking somebody out.
Yes, he's working.
Yeah, and taking their money and giving them something in return.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying is I'm noticing on social media that there's people that get their guide's license and they put on the checkered jacket and then they just start going around and taking selfies in front of waterfalls. And that, to me, John?
Yeah, no. I think, and that seems to have been up and down over the years. I remember when we had the lodge and we were doing classes, you could pick out the people that were after the patch, I called it. Then we started guiding in Florida. There's no patch there. We would see people with flats boats with no push poles. Same thing. They bought the flats boats because it looked good.
Oh,
Yeah.
But I'm going, he ain't a guide. How is he going to guide? There's no push pole with it. So
fishing.
it was the same thing. So you're always going to have that. You're always going to have that.
There are also those that want to carry on a legacy. So it could have been their grandfather was a Maine guide, even though they are never going to guide.
Right.
But they want to carry on the legacy of what their grandfather had instilled in them.
Yeah.
And wearing that patch sometimes it's a feel-good thing to say I'm following in the footsteps of my grandfather.
I know husband and wife teams, and I know you guys have that have come to take the license just because they want to learn the life skills.
Right, exactly.
Talking about the legacy, Tammy, there was a perfect example, was that Joni Benoit, she came to our guide school. Right. And that's what that was all about. Not so much a legacy as the fact that her parents, when she was a kid, took them every year on a trip with a Maine guide. And she was mesmerized by this person that had the guide's patch. And that's why she came to our guide school.
And Joan Benoit is still very friendly with Evelyn King. Evelyn King had a lot to do. She's now stepped down from Casting for Recovery.
Exactly.
But she was also on the podcast, and she tells a great story about Joan Benoit and going to Bowdoin College. And so it doesn't surprise me. Joan is a real Maine girl.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. We're at a good point to take a little break. I think you guys could put a little more wine in your glasses, and we can take and unbutton our. Unbutton our shirts one more notch. And well, let's take a quick break and we'll come back. We're going to talk about taking the rabbit out of the hat. In this Flyline flashback, we turn our attention not to the past, but to the future, rooted in a deep respect for Maine's guiding heritage. Cornelia Fly Rod Crosby blazed trails across the Rangy Lakes and into history as Maine's first registered guide, a gifted writer, a champion of conservation, and a bold promoter of Maine's wilderness. She helped put vacation land on the map in the 1890s, long before hashtags and highway signs were a thing. Now, as a proud member of the Friends of Fly Rod Crosby Committee, I'm part of a mission to ensure her legacy stands tall. Literally. We're working to place a life-size bronze statue of Cornelia Crosby at the new Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife headquarters in Augusta, set to open in 2027. Overlooking the Kennebec River, the statue will honor a woman who brought countless visitors to Maine's woods and waters and championed the outdoor guiding heritage and traditions we still treasure today. The new IF&W facility itself promises to be an environmental showpiece, complete with green energy, outdoor learning spaces, and public programs celebrating Maine's wilderness, wildlife, and sporting culture. It's only fitting that Fly Rod Crosby, guide, trailblazer, and conservationist, be there to welcome all who walk through its doors. You can help bring this monument to life. The committee is raising the funds for this important monument entirely through private donations. Whether you give at the Parmacini Bell level or the Kennebago Wolf level, every contribution helps honor a woman who helped shape Maine's outdoor identity. All donations are greatly appreciated. To learn more or to make a donation, visit friendsofflyrod.org. Again, that is friendsofflyrod.org. Let's make sure Fly Rod is there to greet the next generation of anglers, hunters, guides, and adventurers. And now, back to the second half of this episode. Where we left off, you guys were telling some great stories that I had never heard before. They were great, but I also know that you guys have known each other for a long time. And a lot of that relationship building happens at these, we'll say, sportsman shows. They're called different things depending on where you go. Yeah. Think Marlboro, think Somerset, New Jersey. Did you guys used to kind of chum up together when you were doing the shows?
Yeah, because Carroll and Lila were there, with Fins and Furs Adventure, selling the fishing trips and hunting trips, and we were selling our lodge, promoting our lodge. So, we would get together and occasionally, and in the show circuit, if people have never done it, you've talked all day long, and you just want to go have a glass of wine and unwind a little bit. So Tammy and I washed our face and get all cleaned up and freshened up, and we had to go out the door, and Tammy opens the door, and this guy is laying on the floor with a piece of paper, and it's Carroll Ware. And he looks up at Tammy, and Tammy says, "Well, hi, how are you?" And the note said, "Do you want to go out to eat?" So whereupon we did, and actually it was really fun because we didn't go out to eat. We went and bought a pizza and went back to the room and sat on the bed, the four of us, and take your shoes off and have a glass of wine or a beer. And
it just must have been in the 90s. It just shows
Yep.
how long we've actually known each other and been friends. So,
Yeah. And then, there was a couple times my map and compass instructor disappeared. Carroll came over. He's the competition, we'll say, right? Came over and did map and compass for our class at Eagle Lodge and Camps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were
So
grateful.
Now, I just got to ask an obvious question. You're doing a guide school. You start doing a guide school. Did you guys ever butt heads?
only one time we had a little pissing contest over something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Go
and,
ahead.
and I can't even remember what it
I
was,
can't either.
but I remember vividly. It was at the Marlboro show. I can see Carroll now. He was back to it, and I said, "This has got to end right here." And Carroll turned around, and I said, "Listen," and I don't even think we said anymore. We shook hands and bugged, and that's it.
Yeah.
We ain't been pissed off at each other since. No, no, for whatever reason. Who knows?
Do you remember, Carol?
Yeah. I don't remember what was behind it, but we're all competitive.
Right.
I'm my own worst enemy. So I'm a retired athlete, casual athlete, and I'm incredibly competitive. So, and whatever that was, but it came and went, and it's good competition is what makes you better at what you do. And that's just always been so nice to go back and forth with these folks. And there never was any issues there.
And one thing that happened over the year, and it has never been spoken about ever, never said out loud, I guarantee it, between the four of us ever, is that Carroll's in Skowhegan, we don't go to Skowhegan. It's never been said between us. It's just
It's a mutual respect.
a mutual respect. And
A mutual respect for your BF Goodrich tires not getting slashed at the community center in Skowhegan.
yeah, more or less. Those are the old days, but
Well,
it's never happened.
I like to call it an unspoken contract between four people that say, this is where you do it. We're not going to come in and take over your guide school, and nor do they come to where we are to take over ours. It's just been an unspoken thing of integrity and respect for one another. It's been really powerful.
And that's served you well.
It has
Very
served
well.
us well.
All of us.
Yeah.
It's been great, and we've had people who came to them first, then came to us, and I'm positive
to us
that the
and then
opposite
to them.
is true.
Vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. They've taken both classes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the reflection of their guide school or our guide school. It has everything to do with the confidence of the student. Well, I didn't get what I needed from Fins and Furs. I'll try Maine's Outdoor Learning Center. I didn't get what I needed from Maine's Outdoor Learning Center. I'll try Fins and Furs. But it's all about the student confidence to say, I'm still not confident. Let me try this. Or let me try this over here. It's not a reflection on either guide school.
No.
It just is.
Well, I think, Tami, that's also very consistent in guiding.
Yes.
I think that I've guided people that have gone with many people in different drift boats and jet boats and canoes on fishing trips, and we shared. And matter of fact, when you put your guard down and you don't worry about your best customer riding with your competition, I actually turn some of my best customers on to the guys that I work with, knowing full well that they'll come back, and they do.
Yeah.
And we don't even have to have a conversation. I mean, just one guy I work with a lot right now, Alex Poland, who's been on the podcast. I trust him like a brother. And I think he feels the same way about I. But the point is that, who said earlier, rising tide, raises all ships, right? And that kind of goes not only with the guide school, but right back to pure guiding itself.
Yes.
And, you're going to see customers not stay at the same sporting camp for 50 years either.
They want an adventure. They want to change. So they go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is a small industry, believe it or not.
The guiding school.
The guiding, well,
Whole
yes, but
guiding
the guiding industry as a whole, I think, is a small industry. But when word gets around that somebody is good or not so good at what they do, word gets around.
Have you seen guide schools come and go?
Yeah.
I would love to speak to that.
We had a a guy from over in the eastern part of the state. I suspect you folks might know who he was. And he was another one of the guys who came through the door, spent his time with us, managed to get his guide's license, I think by accident probably, and then decided, they can do that, I can do this. And I don't know how many people we had over the next 4 or 5 years that called and said, Jesus, this was awful.
Right. He took my money.
And that's a very, very big concern for me, because that gives all of us a bad reputation, I think.
Right.
I really do. I think that's an issue.
Tami, you were going to make a point.
So when we first began the guide school, it was adult education and Carroll and Lila and John and I. And we were, newly into it. We've had a lot of outdoor experience. But through the ages, many other guide schools had popped up, including at L.L. Bean and all of that. But they were not competitors. We've only had one competitor out of all the other guide schools that have risen, and it was Carroll and Lila's Fins and Furs and Adventure. That has been our only competitor since then. And we're like, are our prices inexpensive? Sure. But Carroll and Lila hasn't raised theirs, so we're not raising ours. It's been whatever that is, but they have been the forerunners in our minds of the guide school. And we were like sort of walking in their footsteps. And so when people would come to us and they'd be like, well, I can't make those dates. Who do you suggest? And it would be, you need to go to Carroll and Lila's, and don't go to any others, because we've trained them and they haven't even been a guide in their opening guide schools.
No, I know.
And so we respect these two people highly. They have been the forerunner for us.
And that's a two-way street. It's just, one of the best things. Boy, I hope I can do this. One of the best things that's happened to me in a long time, because we haven't been particularly public about selling our business to them. One of the best things that's happened to me in a long time is to be able to tell people we sold our business to our chief competitor, and they're just going to be great at this.
So let's let the cat out of the bag, John. You called me this summer because you want to tell me that you and Tami were buying Carroll and Lila's business.
Yes, and
of course you were negotiating it at that point.
we were negotiating.
Oh.
Yeah,
And so how did that?
you basically said, "I'll do the podcast if it's final and it was when I called you, and
that begs the question: why? Why do you? Because you guys are retiring. You're not. What's happening next weekend?
One more class.
One more class.
The very last.
You're going to teach your last Maine guide course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that'll be the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just finished one yesterday.
Yeah.
And we waited until toward the end of our time with these folks and let them know as well.
Yeah.
Because we feel very close to everybody we've ever had in a classroom.
Mm-hmm.
You get close in 3 days of just can't describe it. It's sort of an oddity, but it's a fun 3 days, but it's odd.
What's the business advantage to buying their what's the help me with this part of it?
Well, I think it's a number of things. If I had to make a list, the legacy of not just our legacy, the legacy of guide school. There's only 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can have the rest of the people who are going to come and go, flash in the band. There's only 4 of us, and to be able to carry this on is, in my heart, is really, really, because we've made an incredible difference in the guiding community in the state of Maine. These 4 people at this table. That's one reason. The other reason is that Tami and I will hopefully that a couple of our boys will carry it on. The other thing is that I still got my memory. I can still teach, and I get, the other day after 29 years, I called my wife Thursday morning before the class started, and she said, everything okay? And I said, I am so friggin' excited after class, whatever number it is. And that's how I feel every class. How can you let that go? So and
It's very hard.
yeah, it's very hard, and I know it's going to be on this other side of the table too. But it's not over. I mean, it's we're going to carry it on. They're going to go out to dinner, and then we're going to be in contact. There's no doubt about that. But it has a number of reasons. But I think the biggest thing is that it goes on, and these people have given us the trust to do that.
Right. So is there a market for Maine guide classes?
Yeah.
There's demand.
Mm-hmm.
We have an average. They have an average. It's pretty damn close over 35 years, 29 years. If we had to take a number, we wouldn't be very far off, and we're almost identical. We are identical.
How many people went through on average, Lila, went through your class with Carroll on an annual basis? So let's just pick out a year like 1997 or no, let's go to
100 people.
Yeah, 100 people a year would go through your course. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100 people.
Yeah, about the same then.
About
right?
the same.
And how many classes would you hold a year?
8
Yeah.
to 12, depends.
So divide 100 by 8 or 10, you'd have 10, 12 people in each class. Does that sound about right?
That or a little more.
Yeah. Tami, why would someone take a Maine Guides class? I mean, we talked earlier about life experience or even life skills. You know, you take a different approach with guiding, and you take a different approach with your career. I know you're a shaman.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's many directions you can. Guiding is wearing a patch. What you do with your guide's license.
Yeah. So do you want to hear the story of how I got my guide's license? Okay. So it was 1997. And the classes were going really great. And in order for inland fishers to come in and send a warding to test our students, we had to have 10 people. So now it's 1998, and Connie is getting ready to send a warden in to test, and one of the students can't make it. So we have 9. And John looked at me and he said, "You're testing." Me? I'm like, I don't even want to become a Maine guide. I'm like, all right. So I sort of sat in on the class, and I've been sitting on these classes for a whole year, back and forth, and took the written test, and it was great. And I said to John, here's the deal. When that paperwork comes in that says I'm to go to IF&W for testing, don't even tell me. I'll give you the letter. I'll really focus on studying. So one morning after breakfast, lodge full of people, he said, go shower. Today's the day. So I go and I have Mike Morrison and Wiggy Robinson as my testers. And I'm nervous, of course, right? Yeah. And I get in there and they know we own this guide school. And so, of course, map and compass is first, and it was original. So I've been a guide for 28 years. And for me, it's recreation. Yep. Okay. So recreation was my field. And they started giving me many scenarios. And I'm like, I think people only get 2. I had about 10. Yeah. And it was so cute because Mike Morrison, so serious in his big body, sitting up there and looking at me, right? And he's asking me these questions. And he'd ask me something. And Wiggy's over there going, no. Shaking his head, no. And I'm like, no?
No to you now. No to you or no
so
to
Mike
him?
Morrison would ask a question, and Wiggy would be giving me the answers to certain things. I mean, Wiggy wanted everybody to get their license. That's just who he was.
He did.
So I want to say that I did mess up on the map and compass. I was so nervous, and I was like completely off. And they said to me, you want to give it another go? And from teaching the class, I knew that was like, oh yeah, I better really check myself, and step back in. And they sent me out of the room and brought me back in. Anyways, I became a Maine guide. I had no idea what I was going to do with this Maine guide's license in recreation. I love the woods and waters. I've always loved the woods and waters. And when I started doing more shamanic work, the coming out part, it enabled me to actually bring women into the woods and do what I love best around the healing work and the sacred fires and really a deeper connection to the woods and waters than what they may get if they didn't have a Maine guide. So they had the shaman piece and the Maine guide piece together. And so it's just been a beautiful avenue in. And I am a master Maine guide in recreation, which is really nice. And I don't need hunting or fishing for me because that's not what I do.
No, but John told me that you're very busy with it. A lot of people come and for your services.
I'm very busy. Yeah.
So just to define what a shaman is, because it can mean different things. I can think of it as being a Native American or indigenous term, but I think in your case, it's more. Am I right in saying Peruvian, like from Peru? And help me.
I've studied with many cultures, and it seems to be that every culture has their own shaman. And what a shaman's role is to basically see what other people can't see, to feel what other people can't feel inside themselves, and to use things like drums and nature, the wind, all the elements are really a huge part of being a practicing shaman. And it's about bringing people into the best version of themselves. And so you journey a lot through touch, through drumming, again, through nature, to be able to help them see something, feel something that they might not otherwise feel in their ordinary reality of going to work and raising a family and having children. Nature is actually the best place to do shamanic work because your work is almost done for you. You know, your job is to show up and facilitate and hold that space and to really help people feel comfortable being in their own skin by being with several women around a sacred fire that's going. And, you know, you could be making spoons.
Right.
You know, and just making these wooden spoons out of cedar, and then the conversation starts up, and then the fire's flowing, and you can feel an energy when the wind blows in, and you just say, stop for a moment and just feel. When I'm in the guiding industry, it changes a little bit from when people are coming for healing. So let's say that we have a group with us up north. In the mornings, I'll pull out my chief big drum. It's a big drum, and I'll just be drumming. And next thing I know, the students have sort of stepped in and they're just sitting there. And then usually before they leave, I do a beautiful sacred drum journey, and I actually guide them to testing day. You know, first, I have them blow into sticks to really release any fear that they have of becoming a Maine guide, whether it's a testing or a client's or whatever that is. And we give it to the sacred fire and we say, I give this to Pachamama to hold. And then the drumming continues after they've let that go. And I bring them to IF&W. And the first thing I do is say to them, before you step into that test, feel your feet on the earth because this is your playground. The wind is the place that you guide people. The trees, the waters are all the places that you're going to be guiding people. So hold on to that. So ground yourself. Feel the earth beneath you. Feel the wind in your face. See the patch on your shoulder and step in with that confidence that we keep teaching people to become that Maine guide. So that when you're with people in the woods and waters, you're part of the resources. You're part of Maine's resources to really say, connect with this, because it's more than just the catch or the kill. It is about what is this plant? What is this tree? What is happening to the wind today? You know, is it safe to bring my clients out? What's going on with the weather? So it's all combined. And so to me, being a shaman, guiding people inward to their own energy is equal to being a registered Maine guide, that you're guiding people outward to be in nature.
That is beautifully put, by the way.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
John?
And I'd just like to add one little thing to this. That's a hard act to follow. But one of the things that Tami do besides that, at our guide schools, at the end, like on the last day, we have breakfast and we have an outdoor kitchen and that kind of thing. And she said, I want everybody to go down the river, find a spot and sit for half an hour. Okay? And then I want you to come back and tell me what you saw. Sounds pretty simple. It is. We should have recorded them all. It's amazing the feelings that come out of somebody watching a dragonfly for 30 minutes. And it's not the dragonfly, and it's not the river, and it's not the wind. It's something they needed to get out.
It's the expression.
There's tears. There's all for this 2.5 hours. There's kudos to this wonderful woman. Anyway.
So
That's such a cool thing. It really is.
part of my studies, we studied a lot about the Kalahari Bushmen, who are some of the greatest trackers in the world.
And they're from
Africa.
Africa.
And so they track a lot with their hands and that feeling. But one of the greatest gifts that them as a tribe had believed in is that when you go out into the woods to create a catch or a kill, if you come back with a catch or a kill and you don't have the story, the elders are disappointed because everything has a story. If you come back and you don't have a catch or a kill, but you have a story, they're sort of elated. If you come back with both, it's a celebration. And so everything has a story. And in the guiding world, stories are really important. They're important to share with your clients. They're important to share around a campfire. They're just important to have these stories. And so it is more about the resources and what you felt and what you saw versus,
The catch or the
catch
kill.
or the kill.
It's the experience.
It's the experience. And that's what we hope to teach in all guide schools, with everybody. It's about the experience. And we love to say that the only thing you can control is what you feed them. You can't control the weather. You can't control if they can cast or they can't cast, or if they can shoot or they can't shoot, or if they can canoe or can't canoe. But you can control the food that you're going to feed them. So start there and let the rest come into play.
100%, Carol.
Wiggy Robinson was one of my examiners. Wiggy Robinson and Lowell Thomas and another one I just can't recall. And I had heard about Wiggy, that he was a character and he was, the guy in the guiding industry. We teach people in our programs, like, when you get up on opening morning, take a look in the mirror, because the person that's looking back at you will know whether or not you've prepared yourself. So
for the test. Yeah.
And that was the approach that I took. And Wiggy was one of my examiners, and I got along towards the end of it. I had a little bit of stumbles with some of the bear rigs. I knew it, and I was just kind of got overwhelmed at the moment. And Lowell Thomas said, just brush up on those a little. Well, comes back to Wiggy. Wiggy said one of the questions that he asked probably every person he ever tested. So, tell me your recipe for fish chowder. The last thing I think somebody's going to ask me is, so I told him what my recipe for fish chowder was. And I finished it by saying, and then I would set it off and keep it cool, because the next morning I'm going to get up with my reflector oven, my baker oven. I'm going to make scratch biscuits. They will have. So when I said biscuits, Wiggy turned to Lowell Thomas and he said, I'm very comfortable with this man. And I got my license. Probably 10 years later, Wiggy was always around the Presque Isle show. And I never thought of it. And I was always so pleased that I did, because he passed not too long after that. I said, Wiggy, you remember that day? And he said, yeah. And he said, do you have any idea what happened to me when you said to Lowell Thomas, I'm very comfortable with this man? He said, what? And I said, I just went.
Yeah, you felt he knocked you over with a feather.
Oh my God.
He knocked you over with a feather.
Yeah.
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 Very special.
Yeah.
You have the additional privilege of, it was during COVID, I think it was 2021, you received the Wiggy Robinson Legendary Maine Guide Award too.
I did.
So you are being charged after this transfer. We're going to see you up there one of these days with that award.
You're looking at John Rogers
I'm
and
looking
Tami.
at John and Tami both.
Yeah.
She's got some special opportunity here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe the little story I'm going to tell might put a kibosh to that, but I'm going to tell it anyway. But I talking about remembering the guides test, I don't remember a couple things, but one thing that I remember is that I was nervous as my palms are sweaty. I wanted it more than anything in the whole world. And I think her name was Ann Howe, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
It was Spencer Pond Camps. And she sat to the left in the room, and there was a warden, and I don't remember his name, but, and she says to me, I passed the map and compass and the lost person, back then it was lost person. She said, John, you need to calm down. You're doing good. And that felt good. I remember that. And she said, I have one last scenario I want to run by you. And I said, okay. She said, it's the middle of June, 7 o'clock in the evening, and you're in a remote trout pond. How could I possibly get this wrong? It's my happy place. She said, you're guiding 2 clients with a 20-foot canoe, and it's a 2-fish limit, 12-inch minimum, and you've decided to have trout for dinner. And you've caught 2 trout. The person in the middle of the boat's caught 2, and the person in the front's caught 1. You need 1 more fish, and you'll have dinner. When a trout rises over to the right-hand side, and the gentleman's have his fly on the left, and you tell him, and he flips his fly line over there, and the fly hits the water, and the trout comes up and takes it, and he hits him pretty hard with it. And the hook turns up and goes up through the roof of the mouth of the trout into the brine, obviously, and kills it. So he strips the trout in like it was a stick. And you scoop it up with a net, and it's an 11-inch trout. And she looks at me and she said, what would you do? So at that moment, I could see my mother's eyes and her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And
big mistake, John.
And my mother did not accept lion. That was not.
Oh.
No, that's not accepted. So I said, well, I guess we're good to go. And she said, we're good to go? I said, yes. She said, so the first thing you're going to do as a registered Maine guide is break the law. And I said, well, I'd like to blame it on my mother, but she's not here because she was a hunter-gatherer, and I am too. And she said, well, you're going to have to tell me why you think that's okay, because I know you heard what I said. And I said, well, I think I just saved a 12-inch trout. I know I'm supposed to let that go, and an otter's going to eat it, an eagle's going to eat it, but tonight we're going to eat it. That's the truth. And she says, turns to the warden, he never said anything, turns back, and she said, congratulations, you're Maine's newest registered Maine guide, even though you've already broken the law.
So I have a comment on that, John. One of the things that I sat on the board, not like Carroll did, but I did a few times to test whitewater guides and recreational guides. I'd get called in, and I would actually have the written test in my hand. And my goal was to find a liar, because a liar is not a good Maine guide. You may not know how to orient the compass, the map, and to your point, Tami, when you walked in and did that, they already had that map turned around so that you'd have to walk into that narrow corner. That's why you naturally failed the first reading, because your mind walked up and said A to B when they said they wanted to know B to A. But back to my point. If I found out that you didn't know how far you had to be away from a dwelling to fire a weapon, if it was 250 feet or 500 feet, and I said, John, I wouldn't tell you got the question wrong, but I'd say how many feet from the dwelling, and you just spouted out an answer. That told me that you didn't know.
Right.
Versus saying, I don't know. On the test, I think I put 250. You follow where I'm going with this?
Yes. Yep.
And so actually, it wasn't about being right or wrong. It was about being truthful.
Yes.
And I think that's what makes Maine guides Maine guides.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You agree with that, Tami?
I absolutely do.
So to finish the rest of the story, because that's what I sensed. It's too obvious to me, number one. So I turned to the warden, and he had a different look than Ann had. And he said, have you done that before? And I said, yes, but I already ate it. So
yeah.
I can't help it. Otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, it's, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Honesty.
Yeah. The real answer is the crayfish are going to eat it. The otter's going to eat it. That's what everyone wants to say.
Yeah.
And that's really what we should do in practice. Sure. I've seen many fish released. I've released bonefish that got eaten by a shark not only 100 yards away from me. And you do it knowing, and Danny Legier, when I was working with Dan at the Maine Guide Fly Shop, I remember one day we did the same thing, John. We put a Carrie Stevens 3/0 or 4/0 hook right up through the head of a hen salmon, 19 inches. Beautiful. This fish is going to reproduce for years. She's the one you don't want to kill, right? And the blood is gushing out. And I talked to Dan after, and he said, Mike, you can't get into guiding unless you're willing to accept that you're going to have some attrition.
Right. Yep. Yes.
And that would, that made me feel a little better.
Yeah.
Not every moment that you have with people, for an endless series of reasons, I think, is going to be a perfect moment. I used to guide a gal named Ellen Kirch, who was she lived in New Jersey, but she worked for Smith Barney on Wall Street.
In the towers.
Yeah, in the towers. Ellen was in the south tower when the first tower got hit. She got out. She was safe. And that year, or the next year, I guess, she came up and brought a fellow named Andrew, big tall guy, 75 or so, a good friend of his, former client. And we fished a couple of days, and he was a kind of a step or two behind. And so the last afternoon, she said, I'm going to take the afternoon off. Why don't you take him up into the river and just see what you can find? So we get up, got parked in the McGalloway River, and lo and behold, he catches a trout that's about 18 inches long. September, beautiful fall color. And I've still got the picture someplace. He's holding the trout like this in the bow of the boat. And he said, Carol, I guess that's about the most important trout I'm ever going to catch. And he slid it back in the water. And they never said a word. Obviously, there's something afoot. And he said, Carol, I said, we've had a really good day. Why don't we just go back to the lodge and I'll buy you a drink of scotch and we'll enjoy the day. So we did, and it was wonderful. And the next morning, Ellen is leaving, and she comes over after they checked out, and she said, I want to thank you for what you did to him, because he's been told he has 5 to 7 months to live without ever knowing it. That's one of the best things I ever did for anybody. Entirely off the top of my head. But, geez, stop and think about what an incredible privilege that was for me. Jesus, the guy is dying, and I got to share that. Got to help him make a memory that he'd hold forever. Whew. Big stuff.
Oh, big stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that is big stuff. Thank you for sharing that, Carol. Well, let's, I want to touch just one more time. With this agreement that you guys have come to,
Yep.
Whose idea was it?
I think the idea to join forces to best serve the population out there that wants to become a guide started in Carroll and John. Carroll talked with John. They talked with each other. We talked with each other. And we started working on making this happen.
Right.
There was no one that came to mind before that would have given us the confidence that the client population who wants to get a guide's license would be as well served as we might have done than John and Tami.
Right.
So I've got goosebumps now. I'm sorry, but we're really excited about this transfer.
And then, from when the conversation started to where we are today, which is now that you guys have reached an agreement.
Yes.
What kinds of things? How do you when you make an arrangement like this, there must be some variables that we never suspect are going to happen along the way.
Not a lot. We met for lunch and said we're good to go.
Yeah. From my part, or our part in this, I approached John at the Augusta Sportsman Show last spring. And we batted this around on the phone 2 or 3 times, and then we got together at whatever it was in downtown Augusta. And then
we ironed out all the major principal issues.
Yeah.
The little detail is what to do with a website. They don't want to lose the opportunity of people who might still look for us.
Right.
So we're going to leave that sitting there so folks will be redirected to theirs.
Right.
That's that's a detail issue that we had to work out.
Yeah.
We've talked at length with our web guy, whatever they call those people, about that. This is just a matter of clicking on it, and it's wherever they want it to be.
Right. Yeah. That's great.
Yes. And
I think I was the one that was the only skeptical one in the party because he's 75.
Yeah.
So
he's 80.
Right? So it's like
So John's 75, Carol's 80.
Right.
This is an audio podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're buying a guide school or however this is working. And I'm thinking, we were just talking about what our future would look like with it as well. And a lot of journeying, going inward to do what I do. I kept hearing this is the best thing to do. And I would come out, my conscious mind would come into play and I'd be like, well, that means more work for me. I have clients, I teach my own classes, and I'm the behind the girls gal. I do all the bookings, I do all the phone calls, I do all the emails, I do all of that. And John goes and teaches. And so I thought, can I actually take on more? And I would journey again, and I would hear everything's going to be perfect, everything's going to be fine. I think the forerunner of really creating this beautiful union together is that our son, Greg Sarnacki, who is a forager and, loves the canoes and loves all of that, has been teaching for Maine's Outdoor Learning Center. It really is the three of us for over 15 years. He knows the ins and outs, and he is the one that will be up and rising when we take our step back, not for years, but when we take our step back,
Right.
he will step in, and we're bringing on board our other son. His name is John J. Rogers as well, and they're both disabled veterans. And they're hunters and they're fishermen and they're, kayakers and canoeists and campers and foragers. They both just really love the woods and waters. And so the big yes came back again to say, this is to carry on the legacy.
Yeah.
Right. And this will be their inheritance. Some inheritances are money, some of them are legacy in your case.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I teased John to say, well, why don't you just pay us to go away?
Isn't he doing that?
Pretty much, yeah.
So that's it, folks. We've summed it up. You write the check, your competition goes away. It's called private equity.
There's that too, right? You don't want anybody else to have it.
No.
Because then, they've built a really great business.
I'm just going to come out and ask, did you have to sign a no-compete agreement?
Yes.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you did.
I have no problem with that at all.
No.
In fact, our job is to promote toward Maine Outdoor Learning Center and John and Tami.
And that's fair.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a privilege to do that because I know how good they are.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first things that came up in the first conversation, was that no compete clause. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. And boy, oh boy, to be able to put this in their hands and then just sort of sit back and I might smoke a Cuban cigar.
Yeah.
And it's going to be all right.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be wonderful.
Good.
It wasn't even anything we had to suggest. They were like, yeah, we're
Whatever.
Let's do this.
Yeah, that's great.
And I had one little blip that we were at the Maine Sports and Show, and Carroll and I had talked, and Lila was walking around trying to find a belt for Carroll, something I can't remember what it was, but something like that. And we got done talking, and then 2 or 3 days later the show's over, and Lila walks by me, and we're just passing. You're getting that show thing, you're going home and all that, and Lila says, "You do know this is going to happen, right?" And we had no negotiations up to that. So, yeah, I said, boy, she's really, really serious about this. Mm-hmm. But back to the buying them out thing, I guess you could buy the competition out. And Tami said, yes, it was and I did a lot of soul searching too, to make sure it was the right thing to do. But the biggest thing is that it was not out of greed or out of competition or to be a bigger dog on the yard. Mm. It was about, I'll be honest, and I'm going to say it right out front, there could have been other people that could have wrote him a check, I suppose.
Yeah, that's right.
No, there can't be.
No.
Because they wouldn't carry on what I know that we've committed ourselves to.
Yeah, and I'm going to say something that hasn't been said. You run different schools. And I think that the community of guiding and also the community of people that want to get into guiding is evolving. And I think that, don't take any offense to this, but you had aced the demographic that was presenting itself to you at the time it was presenting itself. Mm-hmm. And you guys are doing the same thing. I see your Facebook posts all the time. You obviously have social media. Yeah. So Sherry is my social media. She does what you do, Tami. And because like John standing up and presenting at a class, what we're doing right here is what I do for the podcast. Everything else that happens on the podcast, the blog spot, the website, the promotions, all that, that's Sherry. Mm-hmm. So behind every great man
She's a pushy woman.
And, I'd love to say that it has been a really great honor because we have walked in their footsteps. We have walked in Carroll and Lila's
They know
footsteps.
exactly.
And for them to say it would be an honor for John and Tami to have the guide school, it was a serious honor for us.
Right.
Because direct competition what's Carroll and Lila doing? What are they doing? Okay, we want to stay right in line. We want to be in that.
Yeah.
For this transference to come in, it's a really huge honor for John and I. So thank you, Carol.
Yes.
It's
Thank you. The pleasure's all ours.
It's our relief to know that you're going to take it forward.
Yeah. On behalf of the Flyline Podcast audience, and I know a lot of people have been through these schools because I know a lot of the guides on a personal level, and I know who a lot of our listeners are. They've been through your schools. They know who you are. You both have a great legacy. You all have a great legacy, really. But I wish you the best in your retirement, Carroll and Lila. You're going to enjoy it more. You're going to have less stress. And Tami
We're
and
going
John,
to fish a little bit.
Yes.
of course you're going to get back to it. And Tami and John, I wish you the best because I see that this is just another door opening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so thank you for sharing the story with the audience, and thank you for joining the Flyline Podcast again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank you so much.
That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for joining us for this intimate discussion, and thank you for listening to Flyline Podcast. We're proud to be sponsored by Geiger, the world's largest family-owned promotional products distributor based in Lewiston, Maine. Their support helps us share the rich history of Maine's fishing community through the stories that will be cherished for generations. A new Flyline Podcast episode is released every 2 weeks on Tuesdays, so be sure to come back to meet our next famous guest. Until then, this is Michael Jones, and we invite you to visit the blog section of our website to enjoy photos and contributions from our guests and experience all of the episodes at flylinepodcast.com.